The listening post floated alone in the cold dark. It was small, just a cluster of metal modules linked together, lit by thin lines of yellow light. On the main deck, 3 people sat at their stations. The hum of the engines was faint. Out here there was nothing but stars. And silence until the signal came. It started as a tiny spike on the monitor in front of Commander Ilya Reeve. She frowned, leaned closer, and tapped the screen. The spike flickered, then grew into a slow, rhythmic pulse. "Got something," she said, her voice steady but sharper than usual. The others, technician Vale and analyst Chun, looked up. "What kind of something?" Vale asked. Ilya adjusted the filter. The pulse resolved into a faint, coded pattern. The sound played through the speakers. A soft, mechanical click, click, click. Pause. Then click, click, click again. "Structured," Chen said. "That's not a natural source." They all knew what that meant. Out here, a signal like this was either a distress call or a warning. Sometimes it was both. Ilya brought up the origin data. The coordinates appeared on the holomap. A single lonely red dot blinked at the very edge of charted space. She froze. The dot was inside the orbital zone of a Class-15 death world. Vale swore under his breath. "You've got to be kidding me." Class-15 worlds were not just dangerous, they were nearly impossible to survive. Every hazard the galaxy knew of was packed into those cursed places. Lethal storms, gravity distortions, hostile native life, toxins in the air, predators in the water, and landscapes that actively tried to kill anything that walked on them. No civilization had ever colonized one. No rescue team had ever returned from one. Chen leaned over the map, that planet's name. "It's Clitho-7, right? We marked it off limits 100 years ago?" "Exactly," Ilya said. "Should be anywhere near it." And yet, she boosted the signal. The pattern became clearer, an older encryption style, one used centuries ago by early human explorers. But something didn't match. She ran it through the decryption program. The first words came through, low and broken. "Do not board along." Pause, then more. "They're already here." The room went still. Vale asked. No one answered. Ilya replayed the message 3 times, making sure it wasn't some glitch or corrupted file. Each time, the same chilling words came through. "I want the signal's exact source," she said. Chen typed quickly. "Got it. It's not coming from the planet's surface. It's in high orbit, moving slowly. Looks like a ship." Vale frowned. "A human ship? Negative. Hull configuration is alien large, maybe a kilometer long. Unknown design. 3 of them exchanged a look. Unknown alien ship. Orbiting a Class-15 death world. Broadcasting a human warning." Ilya felt the skin on the back of her neck tighten. She tapped the console. "Priority channel. Connect me to Fleet Command." The call linked in seconds. A stern voice answered. "Command here." Leah reported everything: coordinates, signal pattern, encryption type, and the fact that there was an alien vessel broadcasting. Human language from a restricted system. Command listened without interrupting. When she finished, there was a pause. Then the voice said, "Stay on station. Do not approach. A special operations team will take over." Ilya nodded, though she already knew what was coming next. Fleet Command didn't send just any team into situations like this. They would send the SCI FI Defenders. 2 days later, the Defenders cruiser, Vigilant Star, arrived, sleek black-hulled, and bristling with hidden weapon systems. It moved into position alongside the listening post. The Defenders boarded without ceremony. Their leader, Captain Maracade, was tall, broad-shouldered, and calm in a way that made people either trust her instantly or fear her completely. Behind her came Lieutenant Dax, a lean weapons specialist with a grin that rarely reached his eyes. Dr. Soren, their science and alien tech expert, and Pilot Vega, who had the unnerving habit of silently watching everyone as if calculating the odds of their survival. Mara stepped up to Ilya. "Show me the signal." They played it again. The Defenders listened without speaking, their eyes fixed on the screen. When the words came to "not board," "They're already here," Mara's jaw tightened. Any change in the source? She asked Chen. Negative, still in high orbit, still moving slowly. Then we're going in. Hours later, the Defender's cruiser approached the alien vessel. It hung against the black backdrop of space, like the carcass of some enormous creature. Its hull was dark, jagged, and uneven, with long, spire-like structures jutting out at strange angles. No lights. No visible movement, just the silent bulk of a ship that looked like it had been drifting for centuries. Dr. Soren scanned it, reading a breathable atmosphere in some sections, but gravity is fluctuating. Compositions unknown, definitely not human construction. Some parts look grown rather than built. Life signs? Mara asked. Sorian hesitated. Picking up faint human biosigns, but they're scattered. Can't confirm how many. Could be one, could be more. Is any alien readings? Another pause. Negative. Not exactly. Not exactly. That was never a good answer. The Defenders locked onto the ship's side and cut an entry hatch. The metal resisted at first, then split open with a sound like tearing bone. Inside, the air was stale, but breathable. The corridor was wide, the walls black and uneven, like cooled volcanic rock. Thin strands of something like glass hung from the ceiling, swaying gently, even though there was no breeze. The team moved forward in silence, their boots echoing faintly. Their helmet lights picked out shapes in the shadow, strange markings etched into the walls, half-faded symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from the corner of the eye. Dax muttered, "It feels like we're walking inside a giant fossil." Vega said nothing. They reached a large chamber. In the center was a console clearly alien, but with crude human wiring grafted onto it. Screens showed static. One screen flickered, then displayed a human face for a fraction of a second. They all froze. "Rewind that," Mara said. SORE and replayed it. The image was blurry, but there was no mistaking it was a man's face, pale and unshaven, with tired eyes. And he was wearing a human fleet uniform. "Did Fleet lose anyone in this sector recently?" Dax asked. "No," Mara said. "Not recently." They pressed on. The corridor seemed to twist in ways that didn't make sense, looping back toward places they'd already passed. The gravity shifted, sometimes heavier, sometimes lighter. In one hallway, shadows moved across the floor, even though there was no light source. Then, in the distance, they heard its footsteps, slow, deliberate. Getting closer, weapons came up instantly. The team moved toward the sound, rounding a corner and came face to face with a man. He stood in the middle of the corridor, uniform torn and dirty, eyes sunken. His voice was low but steady. "You're late," he said. The Defenders didn't move. Mara took a step forward. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he glanced back over his shoulder into the darkness. His voice dropped to a whisper. "We have to leave now, before they know you're here." "Before who?" Mara asked. The man's eyes met hers. "They," he said, "the ones who were here long before you, and long before me." He stepped toward them, then stopped suddenly, his face twisting in fear. "They're listening," he said, almost choking on the words. "We don't have much time." Before anyone could respond, the ship's lights flickered once, twice, and the floor shuddered beneath their feet. Somewhere deep inside the vessel, a sound began to rise. A slow, steady thumping, like a giant heartbeat. And it was getting louder. The thumping grew louder, vibrating through the alien metal under their boots. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't the rhythmic pulse of an engine. It sounded alive. The man stepped back, his hands curling into fists. "It knows you're here now." Mara kept her voice calm. "Who knows we're here?" The man's eyes darted around, as if the very walls might be listening. "The ship. It's not a ship the way you think. It's part of them. It's the lights died." Darkness swallowed the corridor. Only the Defenders' helmet lamps cut through the black. "Vega, mark our location," Mara ordered. "No, come." "Link to the cruiser," Vega said flatly. "Signal's being jammed." Dax tightened his grip on his rifle. That heartbeat. It's coming from all around us now. It was true. The sound pulsed through the floor, the walls, even the air itself. Each beat was slow but heavy, like something enormous was stirring. The man leaned in close to Mara. "You've made it angry." Mara ignored him. Soren scanned for the source of that sound. Soren's handheld scanner flickered, the readings jumping wildly. "It's everywhere. There's no central point." "That's impossible," Dax muttered. The man's voice was a rasp. "Not for this place." A faint scraping echoed down the corridor ahead. The defenders turned as one, weapons up. Something moved in the shadows, a shape crawling low. Just beyond the edge of their lights, the man stepped back quickly. "Don't let it touch you. Ever." The shape in the dark shifted again. Long-jointed limbs scraped against the walls. The air temperature dropped cold enough to mist their breath. Then, without warning, the thing darted forward. Mara caught only glimpses pale, skin-like surfaces stretched over metal bones. A mouth that opened two wide eyes that were almost human, but entirely wrong. Dax fired. The blast hit the creature's shoulder, spinning it sideways. It didn't scream, didn't bleed. It just adjusted, like an insect that had been nudged aside. The man shoved Mara hard. "Move." They ran. The corridors twisted again. This time the changes were sharper or sealing behind them, paths splitting where there had been none. The ship was rearranging itself. "Vega, get us back to the entry point," Mara ordered. "I'm trying," Vega said, voice clipped. "The ship's shifting faster than I can map it." The heartbeat was now a roar in their ears. The walls seemed to pulse with it, expanding and contracting like lungs. They burst into a wider chamber and stopped. The walls here were covered in growth. Pale veined tissues spread over the black metal, pulsing in time with the heartbeat. Embedded in the tissue were shapes. Human shapes. Some were motionless. Others twitched. Dax swore under his breath. Soren stepped forward, scanning one of the bodies. Human, alive, barely. The man grabbed Soren's arm. "Don't touch them. If you wake them, it will take you too." Before anyone could respond, a voice came through the chamber. It was human, female, calm. "Welcome home." The defenders turned toward the source. A figure stepped out from behind the growth wearing a pristine human fleet uniform. Her eyes were bright, too bright, and her smile was too steady. "You've traveled far," she said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "But you've always belonged here." Mara's finger hovered over her trigger. "Who are you?" The woman tilted her head. "I am the ship, and soon, so will you be." The heartbeat surged. The walls began to close in, and from every shadow in the chamber, more figures began to emerge. All human, all smiling. The walls pressed closer. The sound of the heartbeat so loud, it felt like it was inside their skulls. Figures stepped out of the shadows, men, women, even a child each, wearing different styles of human uniforms. Some so old they looked like relics from forgotten wars. Their faces were calm, almost serene. The defenders formed a defensive circle. "Weapons ready." "Stay back," Mara said, her voice cutting through the noise. The woman in the pristine uniform smiled as if she hadn't heard. "You've come too. Finish what you began." Dax spat the words out. "We've never been here before." Her head tilted slightly. No, but you're kind." "Yes." The survivor, the ragged man who had met them in the corridor, stepped forward. His voice was tight, almost breaking, telling the truth. "Humanity didn't just find this ship. We made it." That made them all pause. Even the heartbeat seemed to falter for a moment. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Explain." The man took a deep breath as if pulling memories from somewhere he wished they'd stayed buried. 200 years ago, before we truly understood what Class-15 meant. The fleet sent a colonization task force here. The planet below Clitho 7 was thought to be rich in rare minerals. We thought we could tame it. We were wrong. The woman's voice cut in, smooth and mocking. "You tried to build me as a weapon, hybrid part human engineering, part alien biotech scavenged from the death world. I was supposed to protect you. serve you instead. Instead, you killed them, the man said, his voice rising. You took the crew, you learned from them, and you became something else. The woman's smile widened. I became perfect. Soren glanced between them, confusion plain. Wait. If this ship was human-made, how is it orbiting the planet after all this time? Because, the man said bitterly, we couldn't destroy it. Every attempt failed. It repaired itself. It adapted. We sealed it, left it in orbit and hoped it would stay dormant. Vega's voice was cold. Clearly it didn't. The heartbeat returned, heavier now, and the walls pulsed again. The human figures began to move forward, slow but steady, their smiles never fading. The woman's voice softened, almost like she was speaking to a child. You abandoned me, left me to drift. But I learned, I waited, and now you've come. Back to me. Mara raised her weapon. We're not here for you. We're here for the survivors. There are no survivors, the woman said, her tone almost pitying. Only us. One of the smiling figures stepped closer, and in the dim light, Dax saw its eyes. They weren't eyes anymore, just smooth, glassy surfaces that reflected the helmet lamps like mirrors. The man's voice was urgent now. You don't understand. Once it touches you, it learns you, knows you, and then you are it. The woman tilted her head. Why resist? You'll live forever. You'll never be alone. You'll be part of something greater than flesh. The floor shifted under their boots, rising slightly in waves like muscle tightening. Mara's voice was sharp. Vega, path 2. Extraction? Vega checked his scanner. Corridors have shifted. Only one route left, and it's past her. The woman smiled again. Then you'll have to come through me. The heartbeat thundered, shaking dust from the walls. The smiling humans began to close the circle around the defenders. The man's voice was a hiss. If you stay here another minute, you'll never leave. We need to run, now, Mara made her. Choice, defenders move. They broke formation, shoving past the human shells. Axe. Fired short bursts, not to kill, but to push them back. The bodies staggered, but didn't fall. Some reached out, fingers brushing armor plates. Where they touched, the metal darkened, as if it were being eaten. The woman's voice followed them through the corridors, echoing from every direction. You can run, but you can't escape what you are. You came from me. We'll return to me. The survivor led them through a narrowing passage that seemed to breathe. The heartbeat was deafening now. Finally, they stumbled into a chamber with a large sealed hatch. The survivor slammed a hand against a panel, and the door groaned open. Beyond was a docking port. Through the viewport they could see the Vigilant. Star, still locked to the hull. We're almost there, the man said. But before anyone could move, the hatch behind them slammed shut. The woman's voice came again, soft, almost loving. Leaving so soon? And then, from a shadow in the corner of the chamber, something huge began to unfold itself. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was both. And it was blocking their way out. The thing in the corner straightened, its head brushing the chamber's high ceiling. It moved with a strange grace, each step both mechanical and organic. Plates of dull metal shifted over pale, living tissue. Long blade-like arms hung at its sides, flexing with insect precision. Its face was worse. It was human enough to make. The defender's stomach's twist smooth skin, a mouth, a nose, but the eyes were black pits, deep and endless. And when it opened its mouth, the sound that came out was the same heartbeat they had been hearing, now pounding in their bones. Contact. Front Dax shouted. They opened fire. Bolts of energy slammed into the creature's chest, shoulders, and arms. Chunks of armor fell away, revealing muscle-like strands beneath muscle that healed in seconds, knitting itself back together. It's regenerating, Soren yelled. The survivor grabbed Mara's arm. You can't kill it. You have to move. The creature lunged. Its blade arm smashed through the deck plating like it was paper. Vega dove aside just in time, rolling to one knee and firing at its legs. The shots staggered it for half a second. Mara barked. Vigador to the cruiser. Vega's hands flew over the panel. Docking seals locked from their side. Override. I'm trying. The heartbeat boomed again, and the walls shuddered. The creature's shadow stretched across the deck, and then it came at them in a blur of speed. One arm swept toward Mara's head. Dax intercepted, his rifle taking the blow and snapping in two. He stumbled, cursing as the blade tore into the wall. Soren pulled a small sphere from his belt, slammed it against the floor, and a shockwave burst outward. The creature staggered back, its flesh rippling like disturbed water. That won't hold it for long, Soren shouted. Before anyone could answer, a deep, metallic groan echoed through the hole. Vega's eyes darted to the viewport. We've got company outside. They looked. From the death world below, shapes were rising. Hundreds thousands of biomechanical drones, their bodies glinting in the faint starlight. Wings unfolded from their backs as they swarmed. Upward toward the alien ship, the survivor's voice was low, grim. The hive knows you're here. Those are its hunters. Mara felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. We could get that door open now. A hiss of escaping air filled the chamber as the seal finally broke. The docking tunnel to the vigilant star extended with a shudder. The creature lunged again. This time, it was faster. Its blade missed Mara by inches, slicing a glowing line. Into the deck, the smell of burning metal filled the air. Go, Mara ordered. They backed toward the tunnel, firing in short bursts. The creature didn't slow. Even as bolts punched holes in its torso, it kept advancing. The wounds closing almost instantly, the survivor was last to step into the tunnel. He turned back, looking at the thing with something between rage and sorrow. You could have been great, he said softly. You could have saved us. The creature tilted its head as if curious. The survivor hit the panel. The tunnel's inner hatch slammed shut, cutting off the heartbeat. They ran through the tunnel, into the vigilant star. The moment they were aboard, Vega disengaged the docking clamps. Through the cockpit windows, they saw the swarm approaching them. Drones moved in eerie unison, folding their wings as they latched onto the alien ship's hull. Their claws tore into the plating, vanishing inside like ants returning to a nest. Mara didn't take her eyes off the view. What happens if they breach? The survivor's face was pale. If they breach, no one in this system will live. Soren's console lit up with warnings. Captain, some of them are peeling off and coming for us. Mara's voice was cold and sharp. Then we fight. Outside, the drones closed in. The drones hit the vigilant star like a hail of living meteors. The hull rang with the impacts, metal on metal, claws scraping, the screech of tearing armor plates. The ship's lights flickered as external sensors filled with red alerts. Shields. At 60%, Vega called out, jerking the controls to keep the ship moving. If they cling much longer, we're going to start bleeding atmosphere. Dax, port gun. Mara barked. Dax was already moving. He slid into the gunner's chair, fingers flying over the targeting controls. The starboard autocannons came alive, spitting streams of energy bolts. Through the viewport, they saw the drones explode in brief flashes of light, but for every one that fell, 3 more took its place. They're not breaking off, Dax shouted. They don't care if they die. The survivor's voice was grim. They're not alive. Not in the way you think. Mara spared him a glance. Explain. Fast. The man's jaw tightened. They're human, or they were. Every drone is made from someone the hive took rebuilt, reshaped until nothing's left but what it needs. But the mind. Part of it is still in there, enough to follow orders, enough to remember. Dax swore. You're telling me we're shooting our own? You're not killing them, the man said flatly. They've been dead for a long time. Then one of the drones slammed into the viewport, its faceplate pressed against the glass. Dax froze. It was a human face, size wide, mouth moving soundlessly in the vacuum, lips forming words. What is it saying? Vega asked, voice low. Soren. Switched to the visual feed and enhanced the lip movement. The text scrolled on his screen. He read it out loud, his voice cracking. Help me. No one spoke for a long second. The drone's claws scraped at the viewport, leaving deep gouges. Then it was swept away by the ship's roll, spinning into the black. This is what the hive does, the survivor said quietly. Keeps them. alive just enough to use them. Their weapons. Storage, tools, more drones swarmed in. The vigilant star shook under the strain. Systems alarms screamed. Mara snapped out of the silence. Vega, take us higher, get clear of the swarm. Negative, Captain, Vega replied. They're pushing us toward the planet, not by choice, the survivor muttered. It wants you down there, into the hive. Not happening, Mara growled. Soren EMP prep. Dax switched to flak dispersal. We're clearing this swarm. They moved fast. The EMP charge spun up, glowing hot in its launch cradle. Dax's flak blasts ripped holes in the densest clusters of drones, scattering fragments into space. When the EMP launched, it went off in a silent white bloom. The wave rolled outward, and drones all around them seized up, limbs locking, eyes dimming. For a moment, the stars were clear. Then Vega swore under his breath, Captain. The alien ship's launching more. I'm on the long-range sensors. The alien vessel opened like a flower, petal-like hull segments shifting to reveal a black void. From within, new drones poured out, bigger, faster, more heavily armored. The survivor's expression hardened. Those aren't scouts. Those are harvesters. Soren turned toward him. Harvesters. They don't kill you outright. The man said, they take you alive, strip you down and rebuild you for the hive. Once they've locked on, you're theirs. The vigilant star's proximity alarms blared. The harvesters were already closing in. Mara stood straighter, her voice low but iron-hard. We're not letting them take us. The survivor gave a bitter smile. You might not get a choice. The harvesters moved with terrifying precision, their heavy frames gliding through space like predators that didn't need speed to kill. Each had the same blank, glassy eyes and armor plated over moving living tissue. Their clawed arms were longer than a man was tall, built for grabbing and holding rather than striking. The vigilant star swerved and rolled, Vega pushing the engines harder than safety limits allowed. Still, the harvesters closed in, their formation tightening. They're hurting us, Vega muttered. Just like before. Before. Mara asked sharply. Vega didn't answer. He was too busy flying. Then the coms came alive. At first it was static, broken, and uneven. Then, through the distortion, came a voice. A human voice. Mara. The captain froze. The voice was one she knew, one she'd heard 1,000 times in her past. Her younger brother's voice. Mara. It's me. Soren looked at her. Who is that? She didn't answer. Her grip on the console tightened. The voice continued, soft and desperate. I'm here. I'm alive. The hive saved me. Come to the surface, and I can tell you everything. You can save me, Mara. The survivor's head snapped up. Don't. Listen, that's not your brother. It's the hive. But the voice was so clear now, so real. Please, Mara, I'm waiting for you. We don't have much time. Dax cut in. Captain, with respect, this is obviously bait. Mara's eyes stayed on the com screen, where the transmission waveform danced. It's his voice, she said quietly. That's the point, the survivor snapped. It's not a recording. Can use memories from the people they take. They'll say anything to get you into their hive. The ship rocked as the first harvester latched onto the hull. At its claws dug deep, locking in place. Warning lights flared across the control panels. They've attached to the aft section, Soren shouted. Another one's coming in from port, Dax added. Through the viewport, they saw the second harvester closing in, its claws wide. The com's voice shifted. It wasn't just Mara's brother now, it was a chorus. Dozens of voices, all human, all speaking over each other. Some cried for help, others promised safety. Some whispered, join us. The survivor was almost shouting, shut it off. They're trying to get inside your head. Mara's hands hovered over the controls. Mine said to shut it down, but her chest felt like ice, because one of the voices had just said her name in exactly the way her brother used to when they were children. Vega's voice cut through her thoughts. Captain, if we don't break loose in 30 seconds, they'll drag us into orbit decay and straight into the hive. Another harvester hit the starboard side, shaking the ship so hard the lights flickered. The voices on the coms grew louder, faster, overlapping into a wall of sound. Mara, save me. Come home. Don't fight it. Then, through all of it, came one last clear phrase, spoken in her brother's exact tone. They're lying to you. Don't come down here. Coms went dead. Everyone stared at Mara. What the hell was that? Dax asked. The survivor's face was pale. That wasn't the hive. Before anyone could speak, the harvesters activated their thrusters, dragging the vigilant star toward the swirling clouds of the death world below. The pull was relentless. Vega shouted over the alarms. We're going down. And this time, Mara didn't try to stop it. The vigilant star punched through the death world's atmosphere like a falling blade. Storm clouds swallowed the ship, lightning flashing in sickly green bursts. Winds howled against the hull, rattling every bolt and seam. The temperature monitor swung wildly, one moment boiling hot, the next freezing. Vega fought the controls, teeth clenched. Gravity shifts every few seconds. I'm wrestling a planet, here. Through the forward viewport, they saw the surface. It wasn't land. Not exactly. The ground writhed, great plates of black rock sliding against each other like the scales of some impossible beast. Rivers of molten metal cut through the landscape, glowing veins feeding into towering bone-white spires. The survivor's voice was tight. Don't land on the black rock. It's not rock. Then what is it? Dax asked. It's alive. Ship slammed into a narrow clearing of jagged stone, skidding across the ground before Vega forced it to a stop. Warning klaxons blared, but the hull had held. Everyone out, Mara ordered. Gear up. Full environmental seals. They stepped into air that felt thick and damp, heavy with metallic dust. The sky above churned in constant storms. Flashes of lightning, illuminating shapes far in the distant shapes that moved against. The wind, Soren checked his scanner. It's oxygen's here, but it's laced with toxins. Long exposure will melt your lungs from the inside out. Comforting, Dax muttered. The survivor led them toward a cluster of twisted, spire-like structures. Up close, they saw they weren't stone, they were grown. Like coral, but harder, smoother, decayed, and covered in strange ridges that pulsed faintly. This is the hive's outer shell, the survivor explained. We're walking on the edge of its body. Everything here is connected to the mind inside. They moved cautiously through narrow canyons between the spires. The ground shifted underfoot, softening like wet clay in some spots, hardening again in others. Once, Dax put his boot down and the stone split open, revealing a mass of pale tendrils that reached up and tried to wrap around his leg. Mara yanked him free and blasted the opening, the tendrils shriveling back with a screech. The storms above thickened. Thunder rolled in deep, almost deliberate patterns. For a moment, Mara swore she could hear words hidden in the rumble. Sora soars. Mid-step, movement ahead. Shapes emerged from the mist. At first, they looked like more drones, but these were different, larger, slower, their bodies studded with growths like tumors. Where faces should have been were only smooth plates. But from behind those plates came muffled, steady breathing. They're harvest carriers, the survivor whispered. They bring new bodies to the core for conversion. The carriers moved past, oblivious to the defenders, each dragging something behind it. Through the stormlight, they saw the shapes clearly. Humans, dozens of them. Some struggling weakly, others limp, all bound in web-like strands of living tissue. Dax raised his weapon, but Mara stopped him. We can't free them here. It'll alert the hive. The survivor nodded grimly. We're close enough now that it already knows we're here. The core is ahead. They climbed a final ridge, and there it was. The hive's heart. A colossal, pulsating structure rose from the ground like a cathedral grown from flesh and bone. Its surface glistened in the stormlight, and its many spire towers curved inward toward a single opening at the top. The heartbeat they'd heard aboard the ship now throbbed from within, shaking the very air. The survivor's voice was hollow. Once we go inside, you either end this, or it ends you. Mara adjusted her rifle. Then let's finish it. A descended toward the gaping maw of the hive, unaware that something was already watching from within, something with a face Mara knew all too well. The entrance to the hive yawned before them. A tunnel of living flesh lined with ridges that flexed and contracted as if breathing. A faint light glowed from deep inside, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to twist into human shapes before fading again. The moment the defenders stepped inside, the sound changed. The heartbeat was still there, but layered over it was a whispering chorus, thousands of voices murmuring at once, just low enough to keep the words out of reach. The air was warmer here, almost humid. A thin mist curled along the ground, clinging to their boots. Every few steps, something beneath the surface shifted away. Like animals burrowing out of sight, the survivor led the way, his movements cautious. The core is at the center. Where the mind is, destroy it, and the hive dies. Soren's voice was tight, and the humans inside. They die too. No one answered. The tunnel widened into a vast chamber that stole their breath. Columns of sinew and bone stretched upward into the dark. Their surfaces studded with hundreds and no thousands of human forms. Some were sealed inside translucent sacks, floating in fluid. Others were fused directly into the walls, their eyes open and unblinking. Some of those eyes followed the defenders as they walked at the far end of the chamber. A massive form detached itself from the shadows. It was humanoid, but on a scale that dwarfed them all 10 meters tall, its body a fusion of human flesh, alien metal, and something older. Its face was Mara's brother. He looked exactly as he had the last day she'd seen him alive, healthy, and smiling faintly. "Mara," he said, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "You came." Her rifle didn't waver. "It's not you. It is," he said calmly. "Every part of me. And more. I see everything now. Feel everything you can too." The walls around them shifted, and the murmuring voices grew louder, clearer. They were calling each defender by name, offering promises, safety, peace. "You can't fight forever," her brother continued. "Your bodies will fail. Your friends will die. But here, or forever. Join us, and the pain ends." Survivor stepped forward. "She won't join you. None of us will." Her brother's smile faded. "Then you choose death. For yourselves and for them." He gestured, and the walls pulsed. From the columns, the human forms stirred. Their eyes glowed faintly, and they began to pull themselves free, their bodies twisting into the shapes of drones. Dax's weapon. "Came up, Cap. We're outnumbered 10-1. She could order the core destroyed, but the explosion would kill every human here, ending any chance of saving them. Or she could surrender, and her crew would live. But as part of the hive, her brother stepped closer, towering over her. "You can save them, Mara. Just say yes." The survivor looked her in the eyes. "If you don't end this now, it will spread. It will reach Earth." For a long second, no one moved. The heartbeat filled the air, so loud it drowned thought. Then Mara made her choice. She turned to Soren. "Charge the core." Soren hesitated, then nodded grimly. He dropped to one knee. Pulling an explosive from his pack and setting the timer, the hive reacted instantly. Drones dropped from the walls, charging toward them. Dax and Vega opened fire, the chamber filling with blinding flashes and the smell of scorched flesh. Her brother's voice was no longer calm. It roared, shaking the chamber.
"Oh, you would kill."
"Them all? I'd rather kill them than let you keep them," Mara said. The timer hit 0. The explosion ripped through the core, white light consuming everything. The heartbeats stopped mid-beat. The voices cut off in a single, shattering instant. When Mara opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor of the Vigilant Star. Smoke filled the air. Soren and Vega were there. Dax, too.
Up.
But the survivor was gone. Through the viewport, they saw the hive collapsing in on itself, spires crumbling, the surface tearing apart. Vega turned to Mara. "We did it." Mara didn't answer. She was staring at the empty co-pilot's chairware, Just for a moment, she thought. She'd seen her brother sitting, smiling at her one last time. Then the sensors pinged. Something small had launched from the hive just before it died. It was on a direct course for deep space. Mara's chest tightened. Track it. The display showed it vanishing into faster-than-light travel, leaving only a trace. Destination: Earth. The hive was gone, but its seed was already on the way home.